Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and today we're going to talk motorcycles right after this. So in previous videos you guys have seen that I had a 2001 purple Harley-Davidson Sportster 883C, but I no longer have it. I sold it to Michael. And you've been riding that thing to work every day since you got it.
I have. I absolutely love that motorcycle.
You love it, huh?
Yep.
It's pretty cool. It was just a little bit small for me.
It is a small bike. I know Sportsters are the smallest Harleys that they make, but it's a great bike for me.
So I've had the Harley for quite a while, and I really enjoyed the sound of it. I got it for a pretty good price, and I actually sold it to him for a pretty good price.
Quite a while? You've had that thing for like a year.
That's quite a while for me.
That's true.
So he's going to be riding the Sportster back and forth to work. You guys might see it in videos. It's not that it's still here, it's now he's in possession of that motorcycle. So this is my new acquisition. As soon as Michael purchased that motorcycle, I took that cash and I put a little cash with it. And I went and purchased this monster beast of a motorcycle. It's like a steam locomotive, guys. It even kind of looks like one. This is a 2006 Yamaha Stratoliner 1900. It's a huge, huge engine. They made these from 2006 to 2017. And there's also a sister model, or a cousin, or I guess if you call it, called the Roadliner. It's basically the same bike. This one actually came with a windshield, a backrest, and these bags. That's what made it a Stratoliner. I'm not a windshield guy, so I took it off. And I don't really have any passengers, so I took off the backrest. This is actually the first Yamaha I ever owned. And I looked at a few Harleys, and for the price, I had to go to a much older motorcycle to get a Harley, a carbureted one, or an older one with a lot of miles on it. This one only has 30,000 miles on it. And the amount of power it has, the styling, I really love the Art Deco styling. You guys will see that here in a minute. I couldn't pass it up. So a lot of people think that these are cheaper bikes, the metric bikes or Japanese bikes or whatever you want to call them. But the truth be known that when this came out in 2006, it cost the same as a Harley-Davidson Street Glide, $22,000. That's what this cost when it was new. It's not a cheap Yami. It wasn't cheap, but it was cheap for me to buy. I got it for $4,500 with 30,000 miles on it, and it is in very, very good shape, like new. That's a huge depreciation. That's one of the things that a Harley doesn't have, is a steep depreciation like that, from 22,000 down to 4,500. A Harley of this year, of this size, is going to be 8 to 10 grand. It's going to be double what this one's worth. But I was happy for the price that I spent to get so much. The previous owner had this only for a year. He was an older gentleman and his knees were starting to give him trouble, and he really just couldn't ride anymore, and he hated to sell it. But he was like, you know what, I want to pass this on to somebody else that can enjoy it, and I bought it. I drove about an hour to go get it, and I followed Mrs. Wizard home, the hour all the way back home. And it was the most enjoyable motorcycle ride I've probably ever had, because this thing is so comfortable and smooth and powerful, very powerful. Speaking of power, this engine, like I just mentioned a minute ago, it's not a little 1200 or a little 1000. It's a 1900. It's huge. It's a 48-degree V-twin, 1854 cc. Just like in the motorcycle world, they always round up. A 1200 is actually 1148 or something weird. So it's actually truly an 1854, but they consider it a 1900. It's air-cooled, it is not liquid-cooled, and it has 4 valves per cylinder. Yet it still has push rods. It's not overhead cams. The combustion chamber is what they call a pent roof combustion chamber. Another word for that is Hemi. Any of the Dodge Ram trucks or Challengers that say Hemi, they call it a Hemi because it has pent roof construction. That's exactly what this has. They don't call it obviously they don't call it a Hemi because they don't have the rights to the name Hemi. That's basically what it is. Not only is this engine counterbalanced, it's double counterbalanced. It has 2 counterbalances on it, and it's extremely smooth. As I'm getting older, I'm not 19 years old anymore. My hands start to go numb with too much vibration and things going on, and this doesn't give me those vibrations, and that's what I really like about it. This is a 100 horsepower engine at 4,250 RPMs and 123 pound-feet of torque at 2,250 RPMs, which is really low. It's barely just getting up off idle and you got full power. And it about pulls you away from the handlebars if you don't pay attention in second gear and you get on it. You better hang on, you better hold on. It gets about 35 to 40 miles per gallon. The Sportster that I sold to Michael actually gets about 50 when I was cruising around. So it's going to get a lot less miles per gallon, but you have to think it's almost a 2-liter engine. A Honda Civic has a 2-liter engine. Some of them are roughly that size, and they get 35 to 40 miles per gallon, so that's about right. This was Yamaha's entry into the mega displacement motorcycles. And when they went clear above and beyond 14 and 1500, and it goes into 16, 18, 19, and there's even some motorcycles like the Rocket 3 that break the 2000 cc barrier. There's also a Vulcan 2000 that's out there available. Just to give you guys an idea of what we're dealing with here, let's do a few comparisons. A couple of motorcycles and actually a couple of cars. If you were back in 2006 and you were purchasing this motorcycle and you said, you know what? I think I might actually look into a Road King. I wonder how that would compare to this motorcycle. So you go to look at a 2006 Road King and you take it out on a road test after you've road tested this thing, and you're going to realize one thing: way slower, way slower. There's a reason for that. It only has 67 horsepower. The comparison I'm doing here is stock for stock, not power commanders and exhausts and all these different things, just stock for stock. That's 33 less horsepower. That's quite a chunk. And only 80 pound-feet of torque. That's paltry. That's poor. 80 pound-feet of torque, 43 pounds less than this motorcycle. You are going to notice that drastic reduction in power. A Road King is heavier than this one with less power. Now, I'm not knocking Harley Davidson. I still like Harley Davidsons. I really like them. The sound that they produce, this one's very close, but it's still not a Harley Davidson. I'm not going to knock Harleys. I really like them. What we're comparing is what you buy and what you get. And one last thing about the Harley, it had a 1450 V-twin. That's the option you had. That's what it was. Now, moving on, let's say that you looked at a 2006 Victory Vegas, which is a very similar motorcycle, maybe not as chunky or as big, but it's still a bigger bike, and you can get them with bags and things just like this one is set up. It would have a 1634 cc V-twin, which is pretty large, just getting into the mega displacement. Only 75 horsepower. That's 25 less than this one, and 92 pound-feet of torque, which is more than a Harley, but still 31 pound-feet less than this one. I've watched a few videos and I've heard a few people say that they have these bikes and they consistently, during a little road race or whatever between a few other bikes, with this bike they consistently pull away every time. With a Harley or a Victory, you have to put some money into them to match this or exceed this. This one you can buy at stock and just be a barn burner right out the door. Now let's do a couple comparisons to actual cars and see what we've got engine-wise versus a car. If you look at a 1974 Volkswagen Beetle, the old air-cooled Beetles, they had a 1600 cc flat 4, which was air-cooled just like this engine. And you would think, well, it's a little bit smaller motor, so it should have a little less power. It has a lot less power, only 60 horsepower, which is 40 less than this one, and 77 pound-feet of torque, which is 43 pounds less than this motorcycle. So this motorcycle has way more power than a Beetle, but it weighs half or less than the Beetle. And the last comparison we'll do is a car that I had when I was in high school, a 1987 Ford Escort. These had a 1.9 liter inline 4, and that's what this is, a 1.9 liter, except it's a V-twin. The Escort had 90 horsepower, which is 10 less than this, and 106 pound-feet of torque, which is 17 less than this one. So this has what's called Art Deco styling. This looks like the headlight that we would find on a locomotive or something. It's really big and streamlined. It also has the ignition switch right here, and you can close that when you're not riding it. Hides the ignition switch completely. It doesn't even look like there'd be anything under there until you slide it forward. And there's your ignition. That's a pretty neat feature. Everything on this bike is windswept. You can see even on the handlebars it's windswept. These are windswept. Even these are. It's an old 1930s styling. As we get along to the tank, you can see that this is also an Art Deco style. These are called side strakes. Take a look at these pushrod tubes, guys. They're just about as big around as Tyler's arm. They're huge, beefy. This exhaust is aftermarket. It's a Cobra. Extra long, I think, or long. I'm not sure which one it is, but it's a Cobra exhaust, and it sounds very, very good. These saddlebags are actually real leather. They're not vinyl. If you open it up, you can see that it's leather that's been stitched on and also glued on. It actually smells like leather. These are pretty handy saddlebags. Apparently they come off really easy with a turn cam right here, and they just slide off. There's two more. Very, very easy to take these off. You can see this little wheel here. That's where the backrest used to snap into place. And as we get along to the windshield area where the windshield goes, I'll show you that too. Similar situation. It has engine, transmission, and then a transfer case. That's kind of how they have it set up here to a belt drive. One of the things I noticed when I looked at this bike is the starter is going to be very easy to replace. A lot of the components are kind of easy to get to. There's an oil cooler. The oil filter's right down here, so that'll be pretty easy to get to. One thing I found, I was kind of exploring around the bike, I didn't know much about what all the little buttons and features do, is you'd put the key in here and take the seat off. And here we have the ECM. Right down here is the fuel pump. Just like a car, guys, just actual little fuel pump there. Some fuses. Underneath this is the battery. But one thing I thought was really cool, it was kind of a surprise, it actually has a power commander on it. And I imagine they put that on because of the exhaust, the aftermarket exhaust. So I was wondering, should I get one and put one on it? And I don't have to now, it's already done. Kind of explains the little boost in power it has already. Here's where you check the oil. It's a dry sump oil system, just like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. So you have to pull your seat off to check the oil. But luckily, as I just showed, it's very easy to get the seat off. It's no bolts or anything. And you don't see that on the exterior when cruising down the road, it's hidden. So there are cars out there on the road cruising today, an entire automobile that can carry 2 or 3 or 4 people that have less power than this motorcycle. What I'm getting at here is for the money, you really can't go wrong. It is a really awesome motorcycle. Let's take a look around the bike and show some of the really cool features. It had some little leather covers and there's some glue here. I've got some covers to go over it, but it was kind of grody and nasty, so that's why you see the glue there. But let's take a look at this tank. Look how wide it is. It's wider than almost as wide as my forearm with my fingers extended. It's huge. Another really cool styling feature is this gauge cluster. I'll turn it on for you guys. It's designed to look like an old 1800s pocket watch. Some of the old gilding that they used on the inside of the faceplate, the way the gauges are blue, and the font of the numbers there. And just like on the backrest that just pulls off with those little wheels I showed you, it's the same scenario here with the windshield. 2 little forks slide into here and it just pops and locks into place. And when you want to take the windshield off, you just pull it off. It works very well, very quick. What an awesome motorcycle. I have to blame one person for me buying this though. After watching the videos of Sean from SRK Cycles, after I watched a couple of his videos, him riding this bike, I knew I gotta go get one. Let me get back inside and let's get this video finished up for you guys. So thanks you guys for following along and checking out this really cool motorcycle. I really love it. It just makes me want to ride longer and longer. I just want to cruise to California or something crazy on it. It really wants to do that. It's designed for that kind of riding. And you can tell when you ride it, it just floats down the highway like a Cadillac. Kind of like that big thing. It's a very similar ride. But with all the cool cars in the background that you see, if you want to see what kind of tools we use to work on those cars, check out my Amazon affiliate page in the description below. And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We got many, many more cool videos to come. Thanks for watching.